Hello, everyone. Happy Tuesday, almost middle of January, and welcome to Padre's Ponderings without a Padre today, also without Rebecca. So you get, I don't think we're the second string, but maybe with public speaking,
yes.
we're the second string team. But I'm Elizabeth Markle, and I do pastoral care here at the church. And I'm joined today by our wonderful ministry leader for the God's Goods thrift store, Kim Perry.
Hi.
Who I'm sure many of you know. And we are going to talk to you today about some things happening at God's Goods, things that have gone down in the past year, things that are upcoming. We have a few announcements. And first, though, we are going to start with a little story that is a follow-up from a different Padre's Ponderings. So Kim has something to share.
So about 2 weeks ago, I found out, while listening to Padre and Rebecca chatting about Bear Bryant. And I have a little piece of history with God's Goods about Bear Bryant, and I'm pretty sure Father Owens knows about this, but it happened so long ago. It was about probably 8 years ago. We were at our old store, and we had a donor come up to the back door, and she's pretty well known around Bluffton. Her name is Joanna Yarborough. She does a lot with the cancer thrift store, but she also is a great customer and donor at God's Goods. And so 8 years ago, she came up to the back door, and I happened to be back there, and she hands me these two hats, and she said, you know, with some other donations, and she said, these hats belong to Bear Bryant. And I was like, who is Bear Bryant? I didn't know, and my husband and son probably thought I was a crazy person. But anyway, I took him to the men's clothing department, and our manager, Bruce Hildebrand, was there at the time. And when I told him, he said, Kim, these are worth some serious money. Like, we need to get some information. So we invited Joanna to come in, and my husband, Alex, did a taping of her authenticating the hats. And Joanna used to be married to Max Bear, who was Jethro on the Beverly Hillbillies.
Oh.
And Jethro, Max Bear, and Bear Bryant were good friends. They played golf, and they were, just big friends. Bear Bryant gave Max Bear, Joanna's former husband, two bears, these two hats. So after getting them authenticated, we had Joanna come in. The island packet covered it. So then we took them and we sent them to Leland's Sports Memorabilia. It's a catalog that goes out to all the sports fans and whoever wants to buy really famous, baseballs or whatever. And we sent the hats in, and it's like all proceeds for this lot go to God's Goods thrift store. And you can see it, the Providence can be seen under YouTube, and you guys can still go there and find this, a rare Bear Bryant find in Bluffton. Wow. So these two hats sold. One hat sold for like $2,000 or $3,000, and the other one was like $3,000 or $4,000. And we received checks for those two hats from this little find. And I thank Joanna. She was just so gracious. And it was just like such a cool little story, as everybody was excited about it. And now to hear Father Owens talking about Bear Bryant, I was like, oh, well, I wonder if, he remembers or...
I think he was reading a biography or an autobiography about him.
Okay, that was, okay. So we have a little bit of Bear Bryant that came to God's Goods and nice donations all going to missions. So, from those donations. Kind of fun.
That's awesome. Yeah. A little Bluffton. We never know when something big happens. But, well, that's a perfect intro to, we just wanted to talk to you today about kind of what's happening with God's Goods, and that all the donations that come in, either they're passed through as gifts in kind, or they're sold in the store, and then the money, of course, after expenses, all the money that is left as profit goes to missions, local, national, global. And I know in one of the last newsletters you sent out, there had been a link and you don't need to see this, but a ton of mission organizations and groups and orphanages and churches, things that have been given money this year. And I just thought I would mention a few. We have Samaritan's Purse. Y'all
Nationally.
did. Yep, you gave for Operation Christmas Child, for hurricane disaster in Florida, for the Ukraine. Christian Best Camps of Kenya. With Simba, who has come here to speak to us. And
he actually attended our volunteer banquet last March, just so the volunteers could hear his story and hear about this very amazing camp program that he has in Kenya. And it's an ongoing mission partner, I think, with us now. And they just doing amazing work with a lot of children and adults over there.
Yeah, I've watched some of the videos he's sent that we've linked online, and there's literacy programs, there's sports programs, there's medical things, and there's the water, the tanks, the wells, with the Church of the Cross's name on it that they put there. I mean, we did
it's awesome.
That in Kenya, just to kind of show our partnership with them. So they're on the list. The Young Life group in Bluffton is wonderful. Passion Conference, Pastor Jonathan.
Jonathan, I just saw him.
Just got back, and he's going to be showing, I think he showed a video at Historic this week and is going to be showing it out here.
Awesome.
All the college kids who went. You've got the Bluffton Community Kitchen. Oh my goodness, there's so many things on the list. The Great Lakes Outreach, the GLOW in Burundi, Simon.
Yes.
And I heard him speak years and years ago for the first time at Camp St. Christopher at the Mondo the youth group. We would take them. And then he came here. He spoke at Crosspoint too.
Oh, that's awesome.
And I've loved to follow I get his emails and things. And that's an amazing
ministry. Oh my goodness.
They opened a conference center in Burundi. I think it's called the King's Conference Center. And it's the best conference center hotel setup in the entire country. And they get all kinds of groups who come, and then all that money is poured back into ministry and keeping, but that's, instead of a thrift store, they've used a conference center hotel style model.
That's awesome.
So that's really neat. So what else do you want to share about this past year, all the things that God's Goods has been able to do?
Well, in addition to the financial, the mission board gives out all the funds, and it was a record year. I think it's okay to share. I just found out yesterday from our financial manager, over $642,000 was given to missions last year. And it's been an incredible year.
Amazing.
It has been. Kind of rebounding from COVID. We had so many shutdowns and challenges, but God has been so faithful, and our volunteers have been so faithful, and our donors and our customers. So that was a huge number to be able to give to missions, and that is after our expenses. We still pay our mortgage and our regime and our operating supplies, but no salaries are paid. We have this amazing leadership team of we actually met yesterday, again for the first time this year, and we have there's 42 people on our leadership team. That's because everybody takes a little piece of it, and then no one has to get overwhelmed. And the same thing with our volunteers. We have some volunteers that serve a few days a week, but most people serve the 3.5 hours, so it's not a huge commitment. And we become this one big family, and people just love serving. They, we have so much fellowship and ministry time, and when people are sick, we're checking on them and we're praying for them, and we're following up with the church, the pastoral care, dinner ministry. And I would say of our volunteers, at one point I did a survey at that time we had about 300 volunteers, and 1/3 are not church members. They may go to another church, but they may not be a church at all, but they're feeling the love of Christ, and they're feeling the friendships and the love that are happen there every single day. So that's an enormous blessing. And we have this one group, kind of a side note, on Wednesdays we have a group of the Wednesday ladies. Like my girls are they were teenagers, they had their squad. Well, Carol Sulak had her, it was like her squad, and her folks that just, and we have this whole, like our Christmas team, they just are this one amazing group of friends and just doing fellowship together, and it's just so nice. Everybody, you know, I don't want to leave anybody out, but it's just a really fabulous team and family, and it's, I checked our weekly schedule, and there's 282 people on this week's schedule, 282 names. To do the kind of volume that we're doing, to give that kind of money to missions, it is a huge operation. Some of you may come in the store and you'll see, like, the store is, you know, it's a busy place. But if you came to the back of the store, you'd see, it looks like Santa's workshop back there with all of the moving parts. You know, the guys are unloading the cars, and it's just been, it's a great thing. And we are going to be doing some more recruitment for volunteers. It's constant. It's almost like anytime you wanted to come be a volunteer, just let us know. But we do have 2 dates coming up in this month. We're going to be having a new volunteer informational meeting at 5:30 on Thursday the 19th. And then we are also going to be having another one on Saturday, January 28th at 2 p.m. And you can just show up. They're at the store. The store is closed during those times that we're listing. And, you know, we just would love to have as many people as, especially we need a few more guys, especially in the, well, actually, I have to tell you, at the back door now we have a couple of women that are unloading cars and helping process the donations. So we're, you know.
Equal opportunity for everybody.
Yes.
That's awesome.
We also, this year, we had the opportunity this past fall to welcome students from May River High School and Bluffton High School. They come on Tuesday and Thursday mornings. They're only there for about anywhere from an hour and a half to 2 hours, but these are special needs students that are learning a skill set so they can go into the workplace. They're high school students. I think we have, I'm not sure I don't know if we have any 9th graders. I think we have 10, 11, and 12. But they are serving alongside of a mentor that's taking them kind of under their wing and teaching them about processing donations or serving customers, showing jewelry, helping bag, you know, donations, and just a lot of different skill sets that they can, you know, speaking to, you know, people sometimes, I mean, even as a high schooler, I was pretty shy in school, and, you know, getting out of my shell, you know, and so this is a wonderful opportunity that we just feel God has brought forward to be able to mentor and love and support these students. And
especially public school students, which, you know, they may or may not know the Lord, or their families may or may not know the Lord, but them and I assume some staff from their school come, but all of them get to be in God's goods, you know, surrounded by Christians, surrounded by people who will love them and share the love of Christ with them. So we have no idea how, even beyond those job skills, what could be happening, you know, in their hearts.
Amen.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That is so exciting.
That was really, we weren't sure how long, they started in the fall, but, you know, they returned for this semester, so it might be an ongoing thing. You know, we just are very blessed by all of that and what they're teaching us too, you know?
Yeah. So that was really kind of a new thing for 2022.
Yes.
That was happening. And I think in 2022, maybe you can give an update on the new God's Goods sister store in Mount Pleasant.
So God's Goods Mount Pleasant began, they opened, I think, in September. I'm not, or they were trying to get open this summer, but they had some things that had to get worked out. But anyway, God's Goods Mount Pleasant was started by the children, adult children, of 2 of our former volunteers who now reside in heaven. Carol and Dick Weatherall were our volunteers, and God's Goods meant so much to them. They served about 5 or 6 or 7 years, and they went home to be with the Lord, and their children came to me and said, we'd like to do this. We'd like to open a God's Goods in Mount Pleasant. And they have started their own. It is Christian. It's Christ-centered. It is God's Goods. His name. It's God's Goods Mount Pleasant. We've designated that versus just God's Goods. But God's Goods Mount Pleasant. And they have brought 6 churches they're working on bringing 6 churches in the Mount Pleasant area together to, and they're right next to Aldi. If you guys are familiar with Charleston, you head down to Mount Pleasant. They're right on 17. There's an Aldi grocery store on 17, and they're right next door to that. And so God's Goods, his name is being made famous there. And I think I talked to Ralph Weatherall, he's the ministry leader, I would say. Ralph and Terry, his wife, are leading that, and she's a Presbyterian minister. So they're leading that group with their volunteers and staff and leadership team, and just kind of modeling it after God's Goods here. It's a beautiful store, and they're kind of in the early stages like we were, but I said you start where God brings you in. Yeah.
And I was thinking today, is this year the 13th year?
It's going into it.
Okay, so we're coming into the 13th year.
Yes, we opened in July of 2010.
Yeah, I was here at that time. I can remember. It was in a different location, but I can sure remember that. And here we are talking 13 years later.
And honestly, who knew? But God knows. And people sometimes introduce me as, Kim is running this ministry, and I'm like, no, God, I have to tell you, God is running it, because there's stuff that happens there every single day that only by his orchestration could it happen. And then this, like I said, our amazing team of leaders and volunteers, and it's it's such a good, happy little place to be. And
I think too that one of the things that every year brings something new, because you don't know what God's up to. And then I don't know if it was this year that it started, or maybe right in 2021, but God's Gifts has become this new little special thing. And I thought maybe we could, I got a question yesterday about, okay, what's the difference between God's Goods and God's Gifts?
Yes.
And so I thought you might want to just share.
That's awesome. Thank you. God's Gifts began during COVID, when the food bank customers, we actually God's Gifts is partnered up with the food bank. So the people that attend, the guests of the food bank, come over to God's Gifts, and we have gifts for them. So there's no money exchanged. And it really, it's housewares, it's clothing. Sometimes we've even got some pieces of furniture out front. And it's all gifts. So what happens is, if something hasn't sold for a couple of weeks, we may say, somebody at God's Gifts, we put a stroller out there yesterday, somebody at God's Gifts might like this. And we, just extra, lots of inventory does go to God's Gifts. And they average about 60 or 70 guests a week. Goodness sakes, Diane Craven leads this ministry, and she just has this amazing group of volunteers that just have these huge hearts. And they threw a baby shower. One of the food bank guests was pregnant, and the ladies, they all found out about. Well, they ended up having a baby shower for this baby, and the baby's now 1 year old, and coming in to visit and just be prayed over. The amazing Linda Laird and a team of folks to have the prayer ministry right outside. It's a beautiful thing.
And really. I think Manel Caldwell is bilingual and can speak Spanish, and so that was such a desire that God's Gifts, that they wanted someone who could pray over our Hispanic and Latina clientele, and so God provided.
He did.
God provided.
Yes, and that is a beautiful ministry, and that is every week that the food bank has been God's Gifts took a couple of weeks off during the holidays, but for the most part they're open every Monday when when the food bank is open. They set up in the youth space and have that area so the guests can come in there and get what's needed.
And that is such a labor of love, because I was there, I was at the Mission Mall Monday for a military care meeting after the food bank, and I know the God's Gifts ladies, they haul everything down every week because it's set up in the youth space, so they can't leave it, and they set it up, and then they haul it all back.
Yes.
But I know they do that, just out of their love, and it's just so neat to think, and all the the past, what you call pass-through items.
Yes.
that you even have another list for this past year.
Yes, the pass-through, we have every year we've done a flyer that shows where the funds go, and then on the other side shows where the pass-through goods. And pass-through goods are goods that are gifted, just like God's gifts. And so this past year, the flyer is in print right now, but I made a copy of. But Bluffton United Methodist Church, Boys and Girls Club of Bluffton, like, for instance, Boys and Girls Club of Bluffton, they wanted to do a lot of decorating for their Christmas party, and we had all these Christmas decorations. And Family Promise Family Promise, honestly, they have probably the biggest pass-through goes to them when families come to Family Promise. They may be coming with just the clothes on their back. So they call God's Goods, and we get the sizes of the clothing for the children and the parents, or sometimes grandparent, and we get the clothing to them. And then when they go through all of the Family Promise program, you know, they graduate and get an apartment. And so then they call us and say, we need couches and beds and linens and, you know, pots and pans, just, you know, kind of to furnish an apartment. And so we help with that. We sent some items down to Florida flood victims. Somebody had a connection. We do send some stuff over to, it was a Jubilee preschool. It was a new preschool that was getting started in Hardyville. And anybody that comes to God's Goods, if I feel like, you know, with Father Owens' direction, you know, I feel like if God brings them here to God's Goods, we're going to help them. You know, we're going to do our best to help whoever can, that God brings forward. We also had Mercy Missions is, I think, over in Hardyville, and one of our volunteers both places, and sometimes he's like, they're really low on men's shirts, or, you know, whatever it is. I'm like, yes, you know, we have a lot of, you know, God has blessed us big time in Young Lives. So just, there's a whole listing of pass-through items that, and we keep up. We have outreach manager. It was Barbara Scott last year. This year, Sonia Wessler's going to be coming in. She was she was the head of the mission board. They're kind of swapping
and I think
places.
Barbara Scott is going
She's
to
going
mission
over
board.
there. So that's you know, the heart that everybody has for this type of work is just so beautiful. And so that's that. And
when you were saying about how, you know, I have wondered sometimes, because it's the same with, like, you know, pastoral care, but I imagine you get so many requests, and the same with the mission board. You know, you get so many applications, and, you know, how do you kind of filter through that, or, you know, how do you decide, or how much, or whatever? But I was thinking, just when you said that if you feel like if God brings them to you, there's a quote that I like. I think it's in a biography that I read years and years ago about Oswald Chambers and his wife. And I don't have a very good memory with the details like Padre. But I remember they had some kind of real active, like, informal ministry where people would just come to their home at all hours and kind of knock on the door, and they would provide, you know, like, food, or come in for dinner, sit and talk, maybe bedding. I can't quite remember the details, but I remember in the book, someone was kind of talking to Mrs. Oswald and said, well, how do you handle that? Like, don't you worry that you're not going to have enough? Don't you worry about, you know, you're going to run out of food, or how are you going to feed your own family? And she has this great line that is something like, you know, my job is, you know, to provide and just do my part, and I let God worry about who does the knocking. And I wrote that down, and that's always just stuck in my heart. Like, she just, her thing was, you know, God's in charge of who knocks on the door. I'm in charge of just giving what I can to them. And so that just reminded me of that when you said that.
And Padre has also, you know, shared the wisdom of, you know, you can't outgive God. Like, he always provides, and I have seen that from day one at God's Goods. I'll never forget when, excuse me, we had some tornadoes went through an area.
Hampton County, right?
Well, actually, it was like in another state. It was,
okay.
I want to say like Tennessee or somewhere.
Okay.
Anyway, this was a few years ago. Excuse me. And a woman that lived in Rose Hill said, I just learned of this orphanage that's been wiped out. Like the tornado took everything. And the kids didn't have any clothing. And her sister must have worked there or had some connection. And she said, I'm loading up a trailer. She called it God's Goods on a Monday. She says, I'm loading up a trailer. I'm gonna, can I come get some clothes from you? I'll pay you, whatever. So, she made a donation, but we just gave her as much.
Sure.
In fact, we gave her all the children's clothing. And somebody said, what are we gonna do on Tuesday morning when we open the store? And I was like, we're gonna put a sign up, given to. The Tuesday morning, the volunteers came in, and all these bags of children's clothing were at the back door. Like it was like.
And we don't even accept drop-offs usually like that.
Yes, and they were there, and to restock the store, and he knows.
Yeah.
It was just amazing.
Yeah. Now that also reminds me of George Mueller, I think in England, the man, he's known for the power of prayer. Back in, I guess, the 1800s, he opened these orphanages for children, and I mean hundreds, if not thousands of children. And every day they had nothing. I mean, their ministry had nothing. And he would just pray day by day for, well, if this is what we need today. And it's just story after story in his journal of how God would just, if the prayer for the day had been meat, like 2:00, the butcher would come by and say, I have extra meat. And then the next day it would be the same thing, like, okay, we need milk. And they would pray for the day, and like things would be left at the door, things would be just.
That's awesome.
You just can't.
Yeah.
You can't ever get ahead of it with God, because He's always
working
in front of us.
Yes.
Well, that's so exciting. So Kim and I both brought our little lists and props just because we didn't want to forget anything. Is there anything new kind of coming up at God's Goods that's on the horizon? Or
right now, I think the newness of the students this spring. I'm planning a couple of things for our like a leadership outing to kind of build. And we have our volunteer banquet in March. As far as for the store, there's something new every day. Like every day, there's just new fun things happening that just are orchestrated by God. And I am excited to share. I would like to share this. Yes. I found out yesterday, Linnell Jensen from the Mission Board came and spoke to our leadership team. And I'm so excited about I guess Nathan is in conversation with the Mission Board about possible mission trips coming up.
As the school grows now,
I'm so excited.
We're at an 11th grade year. Next year we'll have the 12th grade year. All of a sudden we have the opportunities not just for local mission trips or to a state, but we have the opportunity for international mission trips with our students.
And I have to tell you, that's what changed my life going and started God's Goods was a mission trip down to Belize. Missions weren't even on my radar screen. I don't even, my kids were in high school, the girls, and my son in middle school, when we went to Belize. And just a story that coming home from that trip, we're on the airplane, and Casey, one of my girls, says to me, Mom, I just got a text from my friend Sierra who is asking me what's the newest cell phone that I'm bringing home. And she says, how can I even think about a new cell phone when where we just came from, the kids don't even have shoes? And just have that heart change, just have that heart of, just, you learn those kind of things on these trips. I saw poverty like I didn't even know existed. When we were down in Belize, and we weren't at the Belize like cruise ship stop. We were, in an area that was really where kids didn't have shoes or didn't have toys. They were kicking rocks. We came and brought them a box of crayons, and you thought we'd given them $1 million. So going on mission trips has always been, I was like, that's. And when I heard that. And people have been going on mission trips the last 12 years, adults, but to see the students being able to have that opportunity is amazing.
That's exciting. And it's going to be fun with the school just to see, once that high school is fully in place, the opportunities that those students are going to have, and through our church too, looking ways that our high school youth group and hopefully a college group, we're working to build that
that'd
more.
be awesome.
But to kind of put that heart in at a younger age, because I think you don't know what you don't know.
Exactly.
And, here we're so blessed.
Yes.
I mean, a hard day is, the internet's down
Yeah.
for an hour or something.
Yeah.
But for our kids to, you can't watch it on TV or see it in a magazine or read it in a book and really understand, because I felt the same way when I went to Peru, was kind of my big step out into a third world country, and we were out in the shanty towns and in people's houses, and I just I saw things that I never.
Yeah.
You just don't even.
You don't even think about it. When we were down in Belize, I remember brushing my teeth, and we were told not to drink the water, and you had to, and it was like, just take a little bit of water out of a bottle to put on your toothbrush to get water. Yeah. We're sometimes at home you're turning the water spigot on, and it's like, oh my goodness, this is we're so blessed. We are. But thank you, Lord. I mean, He places us all exactly where we're supposed to be. But I do, I'd like somebody to come in and, have, a lot of people have the heart that, yes. Yeah,
but I think the younger kids can be exposed to that in, in age-appropriate ways, and in, safe ways.
Yes.
But I think they can carry that out, into their lives and make choices and see, look for ways that they can serve and help. And when you said the toothpaste thing, for me, one of my moments in Peru was we had a meal in, I was with Compassion International, the child sponsorship group, and we were in these shanty towns actually outside of Lima, and we were in small groups eating with different Compassion-sponsored children in their houses. But we had brought the food in, and in Peru, fried or rotisserie chicken is a big thing in Peru. And so we had rotisserie style chicken and French fries or something that we had brought in, and then we're having these lunches. And when we went to kind of finish our lunches, one of the guides in our group, you get used to your leftovers, you're just tossing them in the bag and tying the bag, and we're just gonna toss them away. And he's like, don't touch anything, don't take anything, don't throw anything away. He said they will use all of those scraps, bones, half broken French fries, and if they don't eat it themselves, they'll use it to feed their animals.
Yeah.
And I just, in that moment, it was not something that
we didn't even think about.
You just toss you eat your little lunch, and whatever's left, that you don't want, especially if it's just scraps, because that's kind of what it was.
Yeah.
You don't even think about it.
Right.
And they use everything because they don't have anything. So that was kind of a moment for me that just gave a different perception of the world.
Yeah, and I think that's what we learn when we get the opportunities to travel and be able to do some of that. It's awesome. Yeah. So when she shared that yesterday, I was just like, oh, this is great,
That's awesome. And you sit on the mission board as well,
well,
right?
not anymore. That's why Linnell came to give the reports. Okay. I was just attending to get the information and learn about the different missions. And now that the board's kind of restructuring a little bit, and they have a lot of decision. When you get a lot of applications
it's a long
to process,
list.
and if I was passionate about something, I don't want anybody having to say, So that was smart. And but the mission board has been great, and they have a lot of decisions to make with different who gets what, and but they're. In my opinion, everything is great.
Oh, I just love looking at the different lists of ministries, and I love when you share in the weekly newsletter that goes out that you can subscribe to on the God's Goods website.
Thank you.
Yes. If you want to kind of get their little updates, their sales, the different.
Yes, and now they're on the church the Thursday. What do they call it?
Oh, the e-news.
The e-news that comes out. There's a link, and you can just click on that now.
Yeah, right.
Rebecca put that. She added that, and so you can just click that and get the weekly news too. Yep.
Yeah. So because you do give updates, kind of on that monthly basis. So that was wonderful.
Yeah.
Anything else about God's Goods that you wanted to?
I think we've covered it all. It's so hard. There's so many wonderful things that happen. Like I said, every single day, you just, go up there. But we really, the volunteers, we really, if you want to come in there, and like, let's say you came to the volunteer meeting, you're going to hear about the store, you're going to hear about what the needs are, and then let's say you sign up and you wanted to be a cashier assistant, but then you're like, I don't want to see all these people, every day. I'd like to be in the back, and I'd like to process children's clothing, or, do something, else, or vice versa. And you're in the back and you want to be seeing people. So, we move people around. We're very flexible. You do have to kind of make a 3.5-hour commitment, to that particular day, keeping up our scheduling. Ooh,
oh my gosh,
could you imagine?
What did you say, 280 people this week?
Yes.
That's not a small
but each
task.
department, we used to have a scheduler back in the day when we were only 60. We started out with 60 volunteers when we started this ministry, and it's grown. And we actually there's been 800, there's still 330 right now volunteers serving. But in the 12 and a half years now that we've been in ministry, 800 volunteers have come and kind of gone.
That's like an alumni club, at a university or something.
Yeah.
That's a huge.
It is a huge number.
That's a huge number.
But what was this? Oh, back in the day when there was 60, we had one scheduler. Now each department schedules their own people. But we have departments. Our cashiers, there's 60. There's 60 between the cashier assistants and the cashiers. We've always got 2 cashiers running with a stager and a bagger and somebody showing jewelry. And Tuesday morning there were 65 people out front this morning. There's always I don't know what people think about Tuesdays, because we receive new merchandise every day of the week that we're open. We're not open on Sunday and Mondays.
But Tuesday morning.
I guess I think and we do, Monday mornings we do stage the place and make sure it looks good. And we have gotten, the truck goes out 5 days a week. That's the other thing. We have guys, we haven't had any women come over to the pickup and delivery team, although Rebecca went out with James one time.
Yes, Rebecca, shout out to you. You are very strong.
But we have our pickup truck and pull behind trailer goes out and picks up the furniture.
Yep.
If somebody has a lot of clothing, when we've got somebody that says, I just can't get all these bags in my car, we will go do those types of things. But anyway, we need guys to go on the truck and trailer. Right now we're somewhat well staffed, and here's the other thing: is we have people. Right now we're well staffed because we have all of our snowbirds back.
Yes.
That's another part of the. We have several volunteers that live in Michigan or Maine or Minnesota or wherever, and they go up to those homes in the summertime and come here in the wintertime. And but we'll take drivers, helpers, any time of the year, and especially spring and summer is when we're a little bit.
And I feel like it's and bring a friend.
And bring a friend.
Right there. If you feel called, grab a girlfriend or, one of your neighbors or something, and y'all can do a 3.5-hour shift and then go to lunch or go to dinner or
exactly.
Do something fun together.
I think our whole entire toy department are all Hampton Hall ladies, except for maybe 1 or 2, but they have done exactly that. They grab their neighbor, they grab their friend, they grab their golfing girlfriend, or and they come in and they say, okay, Wednesday's my day. I do some Mondays and when they will say we're going to go do this, and they have a blast. It's such a great.
And I know everything you're saying about that camaraderie and that family. I've heard that story over and over and over again, and I mean, sometimes in our world, you think, okay, is it really, really like that? But it really is.
It really is there.
Yeah, it really is. And I love that. And all right, so volunteer, or if you can't volunteer, tell someone about the 2 informational meetings that are coming up. The dates will be in the e-news this week. And hopefully you'll be able to sign up some new people.
Thank you.
And then also, as we kind of wrap up here, in the e-news this week, you will see we are coming up on our last 2 weeks until our ladies event that is called Leave Nothing Unsaid, Words That Matter. And it is going to be January 27th and 28th. We just had here at the chapel last evening our kind of final group big planning session. And so there's going to be, we were talking about very important details like constructing the balloon arch, which is going to be, I'll let you know why there's a balloon arch. You have to come and see. And just the fun details for that. So you do need to register online sooner than later because workbooks and a food count. So I hope that all of our ladies will also bring friends. And if you can't come for the whole thing, because it is a Friday and Saturday, just come for when you can. Especially, I think the Saturday with the worship, we're going to have a coffee barista there in the morning and a good buffet lunch. So, so get your tickets for that. And then just always a reminder that we do have small groups. And we have some new Bible studies and things starting up. I know Rebecca's starting up a new Zoom group on Friday morning, some different things. And these cards, which you'll see on the campuses, have the fancy QR code now that will take you to the website, to the different small groups that are listed. So, but as always, kind of that weekly Thursday e-news, I think is our best communication tool for the parish. And the counseling center is still, as we're talking about God's Goods, we spoke about that, Padre and I, a little while ago, that God's Goods has been so kind to pass through so many
I have to get over there
so
and see
many
it.
items. Oh my goodness, it's beautiful. You will walk in and just you'll just love it. But so many couches and lamps and mirrors and different things. So we really appreciate
that's great.
the way that literally God's Goods from our church to the neighborhood, the community, the national, the international.
Everywhere.
It's just crazy how a little couch that someone brings or a lamp or a piece of clothing all of a sudden could be
blessing so many
within days, within weeks, somewhere, even outside of Bluffton, so far away.
Yeah.
So that's wonderful. Well, I think we did a pretty good job.
No,
thank you.
For filling in for Padre.
We are. Again, not your first line for Padre's Ponderings, but I think we did a pretty good job.
Well, I'm thankful for the invitation to come and talk about God's Goods, so thank you.
Yeah, no, it was wonderful, and we appreciate everything. I mean, I honestly can't imagine our church now where we are without God's Goods. I mean, I know there's no hypotheticals in God's plan, but it's just so to think about how much it's even, I think, changed the direction of our church's focus through, you just want to think at a thrift store, what kind of an impact that could have, at the layers of ministry. Like you said, you never at the beginning would have imagined, but God did. So
yes. All I signed up for was to have a yard sale to give money to missions. And Padre says, why don't you skip that yard sale thing and just open a thrift,
Yeah, there you go.
It was all good. It's all good. So what a blessing, yes. And it's, and the small groups and the fellowships and the love that is happening there at the store all the time. That's another thing Father Owens said was, just work on the ministry. Just concentrate on ministry. And all the money and all that stuff will take care of itself. And he's been so right. And you're right, the blessings just are huge. And we're so grateful to God. And to the church for all the support.
Yeah. Well, it's the back and forth. So, and Padre always says, if you miss the people, you miss the point. So that's what it's about.
Amen.
All right, so remember the food bank this week. I think their needs are peanut butter, soup, pasta, and generally Craig always says we always need cereal.
Cereal,
So,
I was just going to say, I need the cereal.
Cereal apparently is very popular, so to remember to bring those by Saturday mornings, Monday mornings, or to bring them to any campus. You can just, even if you just set them, sometimes we'll come and they'll be like, sitting outside the door. We know where it goes, so we will get it there. But thank you, Kim, for being here today. I always love chatting with you. So everyone, have a wonderful week. As Padre says, know that God loves you and we love you too. So go in peace to love and serve the Lord.
Amen.
Thanks be to God.
Thanks be to God.